started.
Well, it's good to see you this afternoon, and thank you for responding on the board regarding planning your personal narrative. So when you walk out of here today, you should have a really good idea of how to complete the planning document and have your personal narrative organized so that when you do write it out, it's going to flow better, and that you have all those components that are part of the requirement for doing this kind of essay. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, you'll want the personal narrative essay planning document. You can go grab it from the course, but I'm going to go ahead and file share it here as well. And you can save it. Let's see, I'm going to find it. Oh, there it is. All right, and it's pretty much has all the steps we're going to go over. And like I said, by the time you leave here today, you should have a couple of the sections filled out at least. And then you can turn it in, I can't remember the due date. We'll look at that later. All right, so let me know, give me a green check when you have that planning document open, because you are going to work on it in the next few minutes, so you'll want access to it. And just a reminder that you save as to my documents. Okay, and ideally you'd have an English folder, not save to downloads. Okay, the problem with that is when you go to turn that in, you think you've saved it, you close it, it comes through to me blank. Nothing that you type on a download saves like that. So, all right, guys, if you're just joining me, grab that narrative planning document. Now, if it's difficult for you to find it here, you can certainly go into the course, and it's in Unit 9. I'm getting there too. You click down on Unit 9, Personal Narrative, and you click on 9.01, Plan a Personal Narrative, and there is a document in the section called Essay Planning Document. While we're waiting for everyone to have that document, you can, those of you who are ready to go, you can read through the state learning objectives that go along with this assignment. Brainstorming session, and we're going to brainstorm here in a minute, and you can certainly brainstorm on another piece of paper, but I will be looking at, you'll be turning this document in, so you'll want to transfer your brainstorming onto it when you're able to open it. But so you'll see on the left hand side that you're thinking about people or places that are important to you, okay, because that's what we tend to have strong associations with, is people and places. So for example, I put Sheep Creek, which is a camping location that my family has gone to since I was a little girl, and we've taken our own kids, and so there's lots of memories that are associated with that. And but over on the right hand side, I chose one. When I was 12 years old, my dad let me drive the car, and I actually crashed it into a stump. I could also, over in the same box, I could list several events that or memorable that have to do with that place. So you don't have to have just one event for that one place. However, when you go to write your narrative, you have to narrow it down to just one event, one meaningful event. Okay, so otherwise it becomes an expository essay when you said, oh, I've had lots of memories at Sheep Creek, and I list them. I do a paragraph for one, I do a paragraph for another, I do a paragraph for a third. That's no longer a narrative essay, is it? It's now become an expository essay. So you want to be careful with that. So brainstorming, list as many as you want, but then you're going to narrow it down to just one. So let's just pretend I've already narrowed it down to this one. Another people, I could write about my granddaughter Everly, and actually I'm going to add that. I just got a brand new granddaughter on December 17th, Adelaide, and I could write about her and the event of getting to watch her be born and come into this world. So I could choose one or the other, and again, I would not write about both. I would want to make it specific. I'd either write about Adelaide or I'd write about Everly, but I wouldn't write about both in the same paragraph, otherwise then it becomes expository. I could write about when my dad had brain cancer. That was one person that came to mind. And then I could write another place that came to mind was actually a trip that our family took a couple of summers ago to Wisconsin in an RV. We lived in an RV for 3 weeks to get back to my son's wedding and just that experience, okay? So you have a chart on your paper. And what we're going to do is I'm going to set a timer, and for 3 minutes I want you just on the left-hand side list out a couple places and a couple people, and then over on the right-hand side brainstorm at least one item that goes with those, one event that goes with those. And you don't have to narrow down at this point, but if you have time, you're going to do that. Any questions about what we're going to do for 3 minutes here? Understand that might not be as enough time to brainstorm, but did anyone come up with any people or places that they think they might want to? The goal is that you're going to select one person or place and one vivid memory event that goes with that. So that when you have one person or place and one memory associated with that person or place, that's what your focus is going to be for your essay. Okay, so now let's look at the next part of that document. A narrative is a story, right? It's a story told chronologically from beginning to end. You have characters, you have setting, you have conflict, you have dialogue, and everyone knows what a narrative is. Now, a narrative essay is a little different. So it's kind of like you have a story, and then you've got to frame it with an intro and a conclusion. And the narrative, of course, is pretty easy. Most people know how to tell. If I said, tell me about your significant event for that person or place, you would just dive in and tell me all about it, how it started and from beginning to end, right? That part's easy. That's the body of your paper, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. What's really tricky, I think, for students is the essay portion where I actually have to introduce this story and set it up and have a thesis statement for it before I get into the narrative part. So that's what this part, that next part is for, is actually planning for a setting up and preparing your reader to listen to or read about your story. So your intro needs three things. It needs a hook, which would be something to grab your reader, and it could be a little snippet of dialogue that comes later. It might be a little bit of something that led up to it. It might be like a shocking statement. Let's just say I'm going to use dialogue. Put your foot on the brake. My dad explained. the next minute was chaos as I punched the gas by accident and crashed. Okay. I'll just crash the Suburban. Okay. That's just, that's not part of the narrative, right? We're just setting up the narrative, and we're not in the story. We're actually like, as if we're sitting down and saying, let me tell you this story, and preparing your reader. And then a little bit of background would be, you know, when I was 12, our family was camping. My brother was in driver's ed, and I wanted to try. Okay, but don't get too much into the narrative, right? In fact, maybe not even, I think I might even just take this part out. So the two facts that I might share in my background is that I was 12, we were camping, and my brother was in driver's ed. Okay, and then the thesis statement is like the whole significance of this event. So these are some canned thesis statements you can use, you can alter. I would probably just choose this one and transfer it over to the box, okay, or highlight it or something. For this activity, you do not need to write full sentences. Just, you can do bullet points. This is an outline, right? You don't need to write your whole essay in this part. Okay, the next part is now we've stepped into the narrative. This is where it all started, from beginning to end. These are just called sentence stems or sentence starters, and you can use them, or you can just list out the events in order. You don't have to do it exactly how this part does it, but again, these are just thinking stems that kind of jumpstart your thinking. And so again, you're just going to go chronological in order, from beginning to end, the actual narrative, and until the story is told. Now, a lot of times students go, well, how many paragraphs do I need? Well, however many it takes to tell the story. You want to change paragraphs. You want to have a new paragraph every time you kind of switch gears or time lapse or dialogue. If two people are talking back and forth, you want a new paragraph every time. Open up any book, and you can kind of see how it's organized in paragraphs. It's not a typical essay where it's 5 paragraphs, right? It is paragraphed according to the flow and the organization of the sequencing of events. That's just more of the same that you'll find on your document. Now the conclusion is now that part where I've finished the narrative. Now I'm going to step out of the story into the present right now, and I'm looking back. And really the key word here is the reflection of what impact that event had on me, the writer. Okay, and so kind of a common way of starting that paragraph would be like, as I look back on this event, I learned that I'm a different person now. This is how it changed me. We're really now getting down to the nitty-gritty of why I'm even telling the story. Why is it significant? And what a difference it made in my life. Okay? Any questions about any of the components? Okay? So, what you're going to do is work on that planning document. It's on the calendar in the class due tomorrow. And you certainly could get it done within the next half hour to an hour and turn it in. I won't put zeros in till Friday, so you can certainly turn it in between now and Friday. And then even if there's a zero in the grade book, just a reminder that zero doesn't have to stay. As soon as you turn the document in and you've done everything you need to do on it, you'll get full credit. And then you should then take that and start working between now and the 17th on the actual essay. Next week we're going to be talking about elaboration and some writing tips to think about as you're writing that narrative. There's one narrative drop box, okay? There's one for the planning and then there's one for the draft. If you want to turn it in and get feedback, I can do that and I can give you a grade for it. You aren't stuck with the grade that I give the first time. You can turn in multiple drafts of your final draft, and I'll give feedback every time to help you improve it. If you want to come into a help session and we sit and look at parts, if you're stuck on a certain part or you just want feedback for me to read parts of it, I'd be glad to do that as well. And if the help sessions offered don't work, contact me and we can set up a help session to do that, okay? So we kind of ran short on time. I do have to start another class here in a couple of minutes, but I encourage you to just take a few minutes